Welcome back to another fun episode of Profit from Legal. We've got another exciting interview for you today, and my guest is from the Ukraine. Her name is Anna, and she is a sustainability expert. This is going to be kind of a long episode, but it's well worth your time, I promise. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be right back after this brief commercial message. Welcome back to another episode of the Profit from Legal podcast. We've got another great interview for you today, and my guest is Anna Chashchyna, and she is a sustainability expert. She's the host of the Sustainability Explored podcast and recently put together a sustainability course for professionals who want to become sustainability experts, which is really exciting. Welcome to the podcast, Anna.
Thank you, Noel. Thanks for your invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here. It was cool already to have you as a guest on my podcast. Now I'm super happy to be here on yours.
Well, I'm just thrilled to have you here. It's always a lot of fun when we collaborate and when we chat out from behind the mic, just over Zoom and get to connect a little bit as we've done a couple of times. So it's just really great to have you here today. And I've got some questions to ask for the interview. You ready to get going?
Sure. Let's do
Awesome.
this.
So this podcast is primarily for small to medium business owners and decision makers. That's our primary audience. And you're a sustainability expert. So can you tell them why prioritizing sustainability is essential for them?
It's a great question to start with. You know, as a sustainability expert, consultant at heart and by profession, I graduated with a master's degree in applied ecology. So I'm in the field. I want to say my first urge is to say, because there is no other way. And in fact, the longer I run even my own podcast, I had already over 100 guests on my own podcast. With every interview with professionals from all around the world, I get the same impression. Why are we even talking about sustainability? It's so obvious. It's so logical. This is the only way to be. You cannot over-consume the resources of the planet because you will hit the wall and at some point there will be none. Okay, you will make all this money, but then what? So part of the answer is because there is no other way, and the way some businesses operate today is very short-sighted. They know already that they will not last too long. But still, I don't know what is it, psychologically speaking, wishful thinking that, okay, maybe one more year of coal and oil exploitation and I have all my millions and then I'm good to do something else. Or it has some other reasons to still be this way. What I'm noticing is that, coal, for example, is being defaced in different institutions. The banks do not loan the companies that are dealing with, coal and oil, etc. Everyone is slowly shifting into green energy, sustainable sources, alternative ways of doing things. And I think it's a good sign. But at the same time, I would kind of be careful here and would urge everyone to educate themselves on the topic, whichever the business the person is listening, who is listening to us, is in. Be careful. What I'm seeing a lot today is that as a humanity, we kind of rush. Someone screams coal and we go, oh, coal, let's exploit this area. Electric cars. Let's forget about everything and let's produce electric cars. I recently had to put together a presentation on nickel production, which is one of the main elements for electric batteries, for electric vehicles production. The main sources of the nickel is the hotspots are in Indonesia, Philippines. These are at the same time the hotspots for biodiversity. And so, everyone rushed into nickel, lithium, electric vehicles. That's the way to go. That's the future. And what's happening now in those countries is of no interest to anyone. The legal basis is not strong. The companies are making money, even locally in Indonesia, in Philippines, in Russia as well, in Norilsk. They are making money right now so that someone else can produce those electric vehicles, say, oh, I'm a good person. I'm not running a diesel car. But at the end of the day, wait a second, you have just shifted you offset your problems from where you are to somewhere else. And at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat, and it's not good. Another thing is the pandemic that we have all faced. Some countries more, some less, but overall, everyone got disrupted everywhere in the world. And one of the reasons it happened, and it keeps happening, different viruses, different bacteria emerge around the world, is because we destroy biodiversity. The wildlife is not staying where it should stay. I mean, the wildlife is where it has to be. Sustainability is not just a nice word, not just a nice thing to have, or you can put a badge on your logo. I am a sustainable company because it's kind of reputationally nice to have. But number one, resources are depletable. There is an end to that game, and we have to learn how to refill those resources and to diversify. To diversify. What coal is fine if you use a part of it. Oil is fine. Nickel is fine. Everything is okay with alternative energy sources, wind, solar, etc. So diversification of those types of resources is going to be helpful in replenishing each of those kind of streams of resources. And the third is our health and our life is at stake. Even though I'm not working in conservation and biodiversity, and it always sounded to me like, oh yeah, it's for someone who's working in the zoo, oh, how can you know everything about the animals? No, I like industrial ecology. I like to be closer to the production cycles and things like that. I start opening my eyes, Pandemic really opened my eyes on what it put in place, what happens in, say, Indonesia, how it affects me in Ukraine, even though I have never been in that part of the world, and how that will affect you in the US and your listeners from around the world. This is something to think about.
It's a global economy. And we are kind of all part of that global village now, especially I think when you look at not only the causes, but the effects of the pandemic. It drove a lot of businesses online because they were otherwise unable to do business. They found innovative new ways to provide goods and services through the internet and remotely. Whereas before, they were tied to a specific geographic area, a specific location. And you have more people working from home now than ever before. So not only is the cause a global cause, but the effect is global. Now, because you're online, you can reach customers everywhere else, on different continents and different countries. And it sort of shrank the world. Coronavirus really shrank the world, not just in terms of shrinking population, but in terms of putting people in closer communication proximity to each other, even though they're not in closer geographic proximity. And I think sustainability is important because when you have that more global perspective, you start to realize not only are resources limited, but we are really just shifting costs. Sustainability, the root of that word is sustainable, or to sustain, to continue on, to keep it going. And sustainability as a concept has this long-term perspective. And I would encourage small business owners and big businesses alike to have a more long-term perspective. Because on the one hand, today, immediately, right now, we might be offloading some of our problems to people in other places. all of us together around the world are kicking the can down the road to future generations. And it's really they, even more than anybody today, that are going to pay the price. It's they that are going to pay the price for us either depleting resources or devastating economies or causing, species to go extinct or having to deal with new viruses that perhaps never would have entered the human experience. So
you touched on two very interesting and extremely important stones in your little speech. First is that, you might think, okay, I'm pushing it down the road to a country I've never been to. So what? The most important for me to care about myself, my family, and where I am today, and, preferably building the capital and maximizing the capital. This is the reason for someone to have a business. It's important to understand that if today you don't care what you push away to, some country across the ocean, it will come back to you. The boomerang theory is always in place, even if you will not know, okay, this is what I did, and that exactly same thing came back to me. No, it will come back definitely, because the planet is one, the oceans are interconnected. It's very impressive to see, for example, how somewhere in South America, on the shores, on the beaches, they find plastic bags or yogurt containers from Greece or Turkey from 30 years ago. Believe me, everything stays. And even if you didn't eat that yogurt at that same day in Greece or in Turkey and you live in Colombia, surprise, surprise, you will have to deal with someone else's garbage. And so will everyone deal with someone else's garbage. So the sooner we kind of start helping each other in that regard, the better for everyone. Another thing is shifting the mindset a little bit from what you said. Sustainability kind of implies that it's a long-term vision. Developing this long-term, okay, I'm not alone. Whether I have kids or I don't have kids, someone will exist after me. This is a long-term imagination. It's not the case, for example, in Ukrainian politics. Literally, the phrase I see and I hear most of all is, well, the mandate is only for 4 years. So let me pack my pockets as much as I can and goodbye. I'm off to Canary Islands. I think it will never change here, but if you can, where you are, dear listener, start changing it towards long-term mentality. I recently heard the phrase, what's fast is not sustainable. What's slowly is sustainable. Little, tiny steps, but combined together, routinely followed, lead to sustainability. Sustainability means that something is stable and growing, ideally. In other languages, even linguistically, it's an interesting term because in Ukrainian, you would translate it as a stable growth. Sustainable development somehow means stable growth. Well, sustainability is not about stability. It's about maintaining some decent level and growing. In French, for example, you would translate it as a balanced, harmonious state of being. Everything is balanced, everything is harmonious, and in that state you develop. So long-term vision is how you get to that state of I'm not the last in line. People will live after me, and I have to invest today a little bit, but every day to achieve that sustainability, the real sustainability, not paper sustainability.
Right. I feel like travel broadens the mind. And I think traveling and connecting with people that we are now meeting in our smaller, shrunken global community neighborhood, everybody doing business online. You're connecting with more people in more places than ever before. And the natural impulse is to maybe put faces to those names and voices and actually shake the hand of the person who's been on the other side of the Zoom camera for so long. And so as people start to travel again and visit these other places, they'll start to develop more emotional connections, and the impact that you have on other places, even places that you've just visited, can be more meaningful to you. So I think that's another part of this too, is that you wouldn't want to visit a place that's covered in garbage, and so you might want to think about doing more recycling or consuming different kinds of things, or talking to your elected representatives about directing public policy in a way that reduces the production of things that can't be recycled and stuff like that, and just keeps that at a minimum. But you're on our podcast today, which is all about improving profitability, because we want to talk about these sustainability issues in the context of why improving profitability matters. Beyond profitability's impact on business, outside of just improving a business, I think we've talked a lot about why sustainability matters in the grand scheme of things. You've kind of hinted at a little bit about, so your business is more profitable, so you've made the capital. So what? I mean, what do you see as the long-term vision for balance between people who need to make a living and produce a return for those who have invested in their business, and the ecologically sustainable business practices? Where do you see the balance there?
Wow, great question. Where to start?
I mean, it's a hard one, right? Because on the one hand, you have people whose primary interest is generating profit for their shareholders, generating profit for their business. And all of those people really have a legitimate interest in earning a living and producing an economic benefit for all the people who depend on them. And then on the other hand, we all have a responsibility to be good stewards of the planet that we all share. So how do you think, what are some, I guess, basically principles for bringing those two competing interests into balance?
Yeah. Well, I would start probably with first legalizing that business is for profit. This is the reason people start businesses, is to make money primarily. And then you can add to it corporate social responsibility, benefits and perks for your employees, something for your community, right? But there is nothing bad in having a business and making money out of those businesses. Where the balance lies, I think when businesses try to implement sustainability, number one, they don't know where to start. And number two, they think it might be too costly for them. So where to start? Find a consultant or a company or someone, or just inquire what exactly this consultant in sustainability, the expert in sustainability, will be doing. And number two, how much it will cost you. But first, get to know the essence, what the matter, what you will be dealing with, or what this person will need from you. 95% of the work of this sustainability consultant will be putting together what you already have as a business. You have an HR policy, you have, some plans, selling stuff, you have some PR probably, you have,
like a business plan, a marketing plan, human resources policies, all of those things. And they go through all of that and tweak it to improve sustainability, right?
Yeah, but I want to touch on what is sustainability. It's a nice word, but if I ask someone, what is it? There is no answer, because it has been packed with different notions, with different terms, with absolutely sometimes ridiculous greenwashing techniques. And then sustainability is like a beast with 7 legs, 2 tails, 7 faces, etc. If I will tell you how I do these things when my clients approach me, and something that easy to do kind of at home if you want to understand the topic and you want to become sustainable, so to say. I look from the inside and from the outside. If you are a product business, you definitely have some input in terms of materials. Something is coming to you and something is coming out of you. And there you look at your water, electricity, waste, and air emissions if you have. It's really like, look around you. What you stand on is your soil. What you breathe in is your air. And it's the same for the business, or, I work with big infrastructure projects. So we definitely talk about constructing something in the field. You go soil, air, incoming materials, whatever it might be. I don't know, wood, metal, you name it, maybe everything at once. Water in and out. And did I name air, waste, things like that. And then you look outside of the fence. Again, if you are, especially if you are a product business, or, we are talking about some huge infrastructure project like a road or solar plant or a wind farm. You also look outside of your fence, and it's still the same, but on a bigger scale. It's biodiversity in terms of what's going on with the animals that live in the area of your construction, and flora, so trees and bushes and things like that, hedgerows, and the community. So is your community okay with you disturbing them? Do you need to tell them? You do. What's going on? You do.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. Yeah, you do.
You will be surprised how many people don't do that. Like, I live in a block of apartments. I will give you a super simple example. Block of apartments. If I'm going to do some even minor renovation, but I'm going to cause disturbance, I'm going to drill the walls, I'm going to replace my, bathroom. If I do nothing, I just start making noise. All my neighbors will, I don't even know these people, but I know they will be angry. I know they will not say hello in the morning. And it's just going to be tense. If I do one thing, if I put on my level above and be below me, just a piece of paper, dear neighbors, please expect some noise from this hour to this hour on this and that day. Oh, they were, yeah, okay, no problem. We also did renovations, so no problem. See how simply informing. I'm not asking for anyone's permission in this case. I'm not, dancing around them. I'm not going with cookies from apartment to, just informing them in a civilized way. Zero problems. Like, thanks for telling us. They come to me to thank me. And it's the same pretty much. People sense good relationship, they sense good intentions, and they really appreciate it. And they have been very grateful if you treat them nicely,
And in the corporate space, when you're talking about this, we would call this, in the legal world, we would call this nuisance. So if you've got a business that has that's generating a nuisance, there's a lot of nuisance law about cattle processing, like meat processing and other kinds of things that create smells that travel in the air. Sort of this air pollution is pretty local. It's not the kind of pollution that would, contribute to global warming or anything like that, although it may also do that. But the primary complaint is the smell. It's unpleasant to the community. I think those people have a specific challenge of doing some PR, doing some marketing, in that local area. And it's basically putting up the sign in your apartment building, except your apartment building is your local community where you exist, and letting people know, look, we're doing something that's valuable to the community. We create a lot of jobs. There are a lot of benefits that we're producing. And if they want to not get sued and it had, like, doing that marketing and that PR has an actual legal effect too. It reduces the odds of a nuisance lawsuit. So, the nuisance lawsuit could cost hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, trying to tamp down the nuisance effect and, improve compliance with regulation or whatever it might be, whatever the negative legal repercussions of that would be and the cost repercussions of that would be. It mitigates all of those if you just do some good, clear messaging on the front end, have good marketing, have good PR, and get your local community to accept the fact that, yeah, what we're doing is going to have some negative benefit or some negative consequences, but we have so many benefits that offset that. Give us some grace. Give us some, be patient, bear with us, maybe move upwind a little bit from the facility or whatever it is. And sometimes those businesses even contribute to like local relocation fund. Well, these are really great concepts and ideas to talk about. I think it absolutely is important long term for businesses to embrace sustainability. But in doing that, people make a lot of mistakes. Like, people are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see smaller businesses or medium-sized business? I know you work with a lot of public infrastructure and sort of like bigger projects, but in your interactions with small to medium businesses, what would you say are the biggest mistakes you see them making?
Well, to start with, I would not call anything a mistake. I would just say it's part of the way. It's okay. We tried. It didn't work. Let's move on. The mistake challenges, yeah.
Okay.
Exciting challenges. You see, it sets the different mood. Like mistake immediately means a failure, and challenge is like, we've been trying, and let's try more, something else. As for the challenges, it's not doing anything. It's the first kind of mistake. Thinking that sustainability or business improvement in a sustainable way will happen miraculously overnight. Being stingy, maybe as well. I want to pronounce it. Yes, sustainability will require some upfront investment. And a good sustainability expert will also show you kind of a financial plan of how this upfront investment will save you along the way a lot of money. Kind of, you have a tap and the water is leaking and you just fix it, so you are not spending a lot of money along the way. But it's just a tap. It's just 2 droplets of water an hour. Yeah, but this will
in the aggregate, it adds up. So sustainability has this efficiency element too that can actually save you money. It's not all just expense.
Definitely. And number 3 is an awareness of what it actually is. And to make it easy for everyone, I operate with 3 standards. If we're talking about small and medium enterprise, that would be 3 ISO standards. They are findable, downloadable online. If you want, you can become certified yourself as an internal or external auditor. So number 1 is ISO 14001, environmental management, that will tell you everything that you should know and where to look for the gaps that you will probably want to fix: waste, water, incoming materials, air, etc. So everything related to environment. Then ISO 45001, it's on health and safety. Probably your business, unless you're in translation services, then probably you won't need anything like that. But then health and safety, from working on height, which is not the case for everybody, to, not touching fire with your bare hands. This is also a health and safety issue, and you will be surprised how many fingers are stuck in between the door and the wall, how many issues and things people at work omit for 2 reasons. One is too young and doesn't know. The other one is has been in the industry for a while and doesn't see it anymore, and doesn't see the problem and the danger. Like, I've been in the field for 45 years. What are you telling me? Of course I know. And then until you don't. And the third one is 19011, if I'm not mistaken. It's reporting. Documenting and reporting. What is documented gets measured and gets managed.
We like to say what gets measured gets improved. And that's a big part of legal profitability as well. It's not just sustainability and safety, but it's profitability too. If you're looking at the right metrics and you're measuring your inputs and your outflows, if you're measuring all of those things, you can adjust them. If you're not measuring them, if you're not guided by your numbers and your metrics, it's hard to improve anything.
It's like walking in the dark or being blind. Like, I don't know what's going on in my business. I'm paying some bills. God only knows where this electricity or water is coming from. I'm lost. And once you start documenting, or another big issue, labor force. People are coming and leaving. We don't know. We have replaced already all the HRs. Everyone has been in our company. we don't know what's going on, why people don't work with us. You don't know until you sit down and start going through your, I don't know, human resource policy. What does it say? What is okay to do in your company? What is not okay? Are you providing internships? Are you providing, I don't know, some learning opportunities inside of it? Or people come, they don't know what they do in this, in your enterprise. And of course they leave because there is no one to walk them through the process. Or maybe, again, your area of expertise, maybe you have some legal issues and you did not, employ people properly and they don't want to work with you. So documenting, looking into labor side of things and environmental side of things, that these three standards will give you the baseline information. Then you can certify your company with either of these three or all of them, or find what's relevant for you. There is a quality ISO 9001 quality standard. So if you're producing there are numerous food related also standards. So see what's relevant for you, get a consultant or get a company, get certified. Even if you don't want the certification, badge for the sake of a badge, at least this person, this auditor will walk through your processes, your documents, and everything that is going on, customer journey, kind of a customer journey, but from the inside, and see the gaps that you will have to fix in case you want to stop losing money and start making money in a sustainable way.
It's part of the life cycle of the business. It's part of developing.
Life cycle of the business.
Yeah, from one stage. I mean, businesses don't just start huge. They grow, and they grow from a struggling startup to a boutique business to a lifestyle business to a scaling enterprise, and finally a performance-based global enterprise. I mean, there's this whole spectrum. And what you're talking about, going through auditing everything you're doing, looking at stuff, don't just think that because you have a contract or you have a manual, an employee handbook, whatever, that it's one and done. All of those documents, your business plan even, is not one and done. It is a living document that's part of a living organization that has to be updated and changed, whether it's for sustainability purposes, but also legal purposes. Things change, your liabilities change, regulations change, the law changes, the marketplace changes, people get more or less litigious, and all of these things do have to be measured so they can be improved. And that's an ongoing process. It's expensive, but it's also valuable. And, finding the efficiencies there is one way that sustainability experts and lawyers both contribute to improved profitability. There's a Frenchman
100%.
There's a Frenchman named Yvon Chouinard who said, "Profit is what happens when you get everything else right." And I love that. Profit is what happens when you get everything else right. And really, your job, part of your job and part of my job, what we have in common is we help the business get everything else right so that they can be more profitable, more beneficial, not just to their shareholders, but to their communities and to future generations as well. Well, you've mentioned a lot of the challenges, we won't call them mistakes, but the challenges that people face and especially small businesses face when they're confronting sustainability. And you've talked a lot about alternatives too, bring in the consultant and make sure that you've done the work and that you are doing the work and that it's an ongoing project, but you're not just walking around blind in the dark, stumbling around. You actually have the data to light your way. What is the number one thing? I mean, you've mentioned hiring a consultant and that, but if people aren't quite there yet, if they are going from just encountering sustainability as a meaningful concept to them or a concept that's meaningful to them, and they're starting to think about maybe at some point in the future hiring a sustainability expert to come in and get them sorted, what would you say would be the number one or number two directionally correct step they could take on that journey from where they are, like starting from zero to going from 0 to 1? What would you say is the best step to take?
That's a great question. While you were asking me, I was already thinking, when I have a pain in my teeth, I go to the dentist. I don't go to the psychologist. I don't go to, seriously, I have a pain in my teeth. I go to the dentist, not to someone who read something online, not my mom because I trust her or my friends. Same with the psychologist. If I have a problem, I don't know how to solve in something in my life. I don't sit down reading books or, I don't know, questioning random people on the street. You have a problem, you go fix it with a professional. Why I'm cheering up and rooting up for consultants, firms. Why I'm saying consultants, because just like small and medium enterprises, small and medium businesses, I personally feel more attached to, smaller people. I want to give them my money rather than bigger corporations, even though, we say for all the colors, right? I will think about it and I will tell you. Anyway, the taste is different. You can go for the small firm, for an individual consultant, for, I don't know, Boston Consulting Group. If you want, you decide. But it's my personal preference. I'm going to personal consultants because I want to empower them and give them a little bit more money than bigger companies already get. Regardless of big or small scale of the person or company that will be helping you, go to the professional. It will save you years of self-exploration. And also it will save you tons of money regarding everything. Whether you're trying to sell your house or an apartment, get a realtor. Don't do it by yourself. Whether you want to fix your tooth, don't do it by yourself. Go to the professional. This is why I'm insistent, because I've seen, sadly, too many companies that want the result for yesterday, and they have started years ago and they're still nowhere. So please do something. But you're taking them as clients in a state that is already much worse than they have been in when they did nothing. Because They have tried a lot of things, they got discouraged, they say it's not working, and now, restore their faith in sustainability, restore their financial expectation.
It's ironic, isn't it? It's ironic that that a lot of people, whether it's sustainability, and I see the same problem happen in the law as well. They have this idea that, yes, this is important and I need to do something about it, but I don't want to spend the money to hire the professional. I don't want to deal with that upfront cost. So I'll try to do it myself. And they actually make such a mess of it, whether they're downloading contracts from LegalZoom or whatever, to download something off the internet. I'll just follow this template. I'm a smart person. I went to school. I know what I'm doing in my life generally. And so I can do this myself. Why can't I figure this out myself? Well, number one, even if you could figure it out yourself, there's an opportunity cost there. It's going to distract you from what you really ought to be spending your time on. Yes, you perhaps could learn to do this. You could go to law school, but should every entrepreneur also go to law school and become a lawyer and then go to school to become an accountant and go to school to, learn about insurance? You can't go to school and become proficient in every aspect of your business. Instead, you should focus on being a good business person, being a good entrepreneur. Hire the sustainability expert, hire the accountant, hire the lawyer, hire the insurance professional, work with an insurance professional to get the insurance that's the right size for your business and get you covered. I mean, all of these different things, marketing and sales. I mean, people try to do their own marketing and sales all day long, and they end up doing it so badly that if they had just spent the money in the first place and made the investment in the first place in a professional to get it right, they actually, as you say, would have saved years and who knows how much money.
Absolutely right. Absolutely true. And it takes some internal mental peace to let go of a little bit of money to gain even more mental peace and more strength. And you're absolutely right. I think part of the reason why people try to do certain things by themselves legal or sustainability is because, well, the laws are online. I can just read through them,
Right.
Well, what's so complicated about plastic recycling, water, electricity, etc.? Nothing. I can do it by myself. In a way, it's true. And it's a great thing that you can find anything online. But number one, you don't know how to separate the quality information from someone's opinion about some information based on a standard. It goes through a lot of filters before you're like, oh, how did that become this? So
you lack context. There's no context, really. You don't you can read it and you understand it at a surface level. When you read it online, you understand the words in the abstract. You can go to, and if you don't, you can go to a dictionary online and look up the word, right? And then you think, oh, I understand this. But all that understanding, all that knowledge is surface level because you don't have the context of experience that an expert has and deep education that an expert has. Like in the law, when you say, oh, I could go and read the cases. Well, do you go read the cases, or do you just read the statutes and the regulations? Because the statutes and regulations get interpreted in the context of case law, and that has a precedent, that sets a precedent that has an impact on future decisions and so on. And are you really looking at it in the context of the way a judge has ruled on the interpretation of that statute, or are you just looking at the plain language of the statute? If you're just looking at the plain language of the law or the regulation, you may understand it grammatically, but you don't understand it legally. And that's a big difference. And I'm sure it's the same for sustainability. Yes, I know that it's important to turn off the lights when I leave the room, to fix the faucet so it doesn't drip, to fix the toilet so it doesn't run, to use high efficiency this and low wattage that, right? Like we get all of those things.
But it's not just that. Even
it's not just that. There's more to it.
They are on the surface. It's
surface
easy,
level.
Turn the tap when you're brushing your teeth. We have heard it many times. But how do you reduce your carbon emissions? What can you, profoundly, almost like revolutionarily change in your company daily operations on the labor side, on the environmental side? Because social is also part of sustainability. We're not talking only about environment. Otherwise, we would be saying, environment or environmental something. It's environment, social, and
economic.
In a way, governance. ESG governance is how you deal with these things. If it was that easy, no problem. I have named 3 standards that will help anyone to start today, right on spot, educating themselves on what exactly needs to happen in each of these respects: environment, labor, social, and kind of management and governance of the business. And it's a good thing to do. If you have no money or you have not arrived there mentally, it's okay to check those by yourself. And then at least you will have something to talk about with the professional you will invite sooner or later. Because another thing, while you're not doing it, someone else does. And it's very possible that 3 months of your stillness and not engaging in improving your business will result in you being out of business completely. Because another thing, millennials are, my age people, 30, they're 30, 35, 40 years old now. Zoomers are entering into the market with their capacity of buying. And these people, you will not fool them. They want organic, they want biodegradable, they care about the environment. They will not buy from a company that is just a brand, big name. They will check all the labels. They need to know what they're buying. It's what I see all around me.
They might be the first truly data-driven generation, actually. And sustainability and legal profitability, these are data-driven trends. You can't have really meaningful legal profitability. Legal profitability is a legal key performance indicator. It's a metric that combines a lot of other efficiency metrics and effectiveness metrics about how lawyers do their job and how they contribute to the bottom line of a business. Sustainability is likewise data driven. You have to look at your numbers, and the generations, the modern generations that have come up, I'd say millennials and moving forward to a degree, even Generation X, even people who have had a strong adoption of technology and internet, and it's really become fully integrated into their lives without a kind of reticence or reluctance or resentment a little bit of technology. But these more modern generations,
they were born with a smartphone in hand.
In their hand, yeah. The Zoomers definitely have been, and all of those people engage, I think, more with the data that's available. And that might be a really great sort of aspirational topic to talk about in the future, like how data and artificial intelligence and all of that is shaping our lives as we change our values to incorporate things like a robust availability of data. Like that is an actual value that people actually have now that before they didn't have because it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible to collate all of that data to process all of the big data about sustainability metrics or legal profitability metrics. Like that just wasn't something that was feasible in the past. And now it is. And so people value it because they see the benefit that can have on their lives. Well, this has been such an eye-opening, enlightening, interesting, truly interesting and entertaining interview. It's much longer than our other interviews, but totally worth the investment of time. And it's always a pleasure to have, these kinds of interactions with you. I always enjoy our chats. Before you go, can you tell people what is the best way to connect with you? Obviously, we want them to listen to the Sustainability Explored podcast and subscribe to that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever else you listen to podcasts. But beyond just your podcast, how can people connect with you? And then once they do, what's the best way for them to get the most out of that initial interaction?
Well, yeah, the best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn, Anna Chashchyna on LinkedIn. And there you will have directions to my website where I am sharing everything that I'm writing, everything that is happening in my professional sphere. So listen to the podcast. It's called Sustainability Explored. It's free. Every new episode is released on Thursdays, depending on your time zone. It might be late Wednesday evening to throughout Thursday. A lot of great content there, a lot of great guests that give insights into how sustainability can be implemented really in different spheres of economy and in different businesses, from finance to, bed sheets, to flowers industry, to carbon neutrality and how to become climate neutral as a company. Things like that. And number two, I'm putting together, and hopefully by the end of March, the audio course on listenable.io will be available for anyone who is interested in becoming a sustainability professional, whether we're talking about someone who has just graduated and wants to enter this field as their first choice, or someone who is now in the middle of their career and wants to change into sustainability because he or she, they see a lot of potential in the topic. So my LinkedIn, Anna Chashchyna, connect with me. Let's chat. Let's see what we can do together. My website, same thing, annachashchyna.com. But basically all of that information is on my LinkedIn. That's mostly my favorite social media tool.
We'll put links to those, to your LinkedIn profile and the podcast and everything in the show notes, in the episode description for this episode. So look for those. If you're listening to this and you don't know how to spell Chashchyna, then you can look in the show notes and you'll find the link conveniently right there. Have you joined our Profit from Legal LinkedIn group yet?
I think I did, yeah. You
did? So that might be another way if people are looking for you or searching for you just as they listen to this. If they're already in the Profit from Legal LinkedIn group, they can find you there and connect with you, sort of through the group. We'll be posting links to this episode when it gets published in the Profit from Legal group. And I'm sure you guys can, sound off in the comments to that post and everything. So, all right, great. Well, thanks again for coming on the Profit from Legal podcast. Always a pleasure to see you and to have you on. And we hope to collaborate with you again in the future.
Thank you, Noel. Best of luck.
Wow, that was a really long episode. Thank you if you listened to the whole thing and you're listening to this message. I just want to say thanks for tuning in to this very special interview. It's special to me because Anna has become a good friend since I appeared on her Sustainability Explored podcast last fall, and we've been waiting months to do this collaboration. So if you tuned in for this very special interview, thank you for listening to the whole thing. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Profit from Legal podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Share it with your friends and tune in for the next great episode of Profit from Legal.